Shalom everyone and Hodesh Tov. We are in the month of Elul, just started today, and Parashat Shoftim. Now, Shoftim is always the beginning of Elul, the month of Elul, the Hebrew month of Virgo, and that means that in a month from today, a new year is starting. The whole world is going to get through a big reset, and that's going to be detrimental about who are we going to be the next year to come. So this month is a month of, let's say, some of the people who are born in this month, they're called Virgo, they seems to be, they walk around with a license of being God's accountant. They're just doing accounting to everything. You know, how good are you? How exact are you? You know, and it's not by mistake, because this is the accounting system of the universe that is happening in the next month. Why? Because, as you're going to see, it's very important about who are we going to be and what are we going to become the next year. So, of course, there's a connection, and that's why when we say, when the parasha is in Deuteronomy 16, verse 18, that's where it says, Shoftim v'shotrim. Simplistic translation, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha bechol sha'arecha. Judges and policemen you should have in all your gates. Now, you know, the gate of the city was the center of the city, because that's where people will come from all over. People will leave. Court was sitting at the gates of the city. It's like everything was happening in the gate of the city. This was the center of events. Now, Asher. And then there are some rules of justice, and that's on simplistic, and the simplistic aspect is also important. You know, every society, as we know from Genesis, every society, according to Genesis, Jewish or not Jewish, needs to have a system of judges, a system of laws, in order to have a society that is just and correct. Why? Because a society is kind of an agreement among the members of the society. If you don't agree to the rules, that's not a society. That could be jail, it could be, you're a subject, and the moment you don't feel that you are part of society, then you don't cooperate, and that society is usually falling apart sooner or later. As we know about human history, the moment people feel that the society they are members of is using them, the deal is not fair between the government and the members of the society, people stop. The simple thing, as Rabbi Ashlag said in 1930, the moment you have a society that is not run on rules of justice, like the Soviet Union, that was 1930, he said, people will not cooperate, and the result will be they will collapse because they won't have what to eat. 60 years later, the big Iron Curtain collapsed because people didn't have what to eat, because they did not cooperate with the system. So, if you want to feel good, number one is you need to be part of a society that you feel there is a fairness between what you get from society and what you give. If you don't feel there's a fairness, which means you don't feel it's fair what you're going, you don't, whatever you put in, you get much less than that, how long would you continue to give? Not too much. That could be a company, that could be any kind of a government, a country. That's called history. What happens to people, says Rav Ashlag, when they don't feel it's fair, they become upset, and they get more upset. And if the situation does not change, it becomes worse usually, because corrupt governments, they have the tendency to get more corrupt as the time pass by, because they think they are invincible. Finally, people rebel, they make a revolution, the whole thing falls apart, and then people start to build a new thing, till that becomes faulty, and then people start to, and that's called history, right? Mankind is doing all the time experiments in what's called society. So we know the more people feel that their society is fair to them, the more they work, the more they make, the more taxes they're willing to pay, and the collective is becoming richer. Look around the world and you see that everywhere. These rules apply always, thousands of years. That's how it works. Now, you can force people to cooperate, but what kind of results are you going to get when people feel they are subjects? So look at countries that people feel that are being ruled unfairly by someone or companies. Very low national product, right? When people feel that they get and a lot, when they work a lot, people work harder and they bring better results, okay? And the GDP is rising. Very simple. All of that is based on Shoftim v'Shotrim. You need to have a law system, you need to have a legal system of judges, and you need to have policemen, which means a system that if there is a judgment, somebody has to make sure that people follow the rules or the verdict. Okay, that's on the simplistic way, a must. Without that, people are pretty miserable. You know, it's very hard to find, you know, where there's a yearly results of the UN, I think, about how happy people are around the world. And one of the major part of that index is how much do you feel that your society is supporting you. Because to be happy, it's not just, you know, I'm going around, I'm happy. Like, it's like people can lie. A lot of people, they say they're happy and then they commit suicide or they get a divorce and like, I thought you were happy. Yeah. You know, you know, what should I tell you all my stories? I don't want to. People don't do that. But so they realize you don't ask a person, are you happy? You ask him, do you feel supported? Do you feel that your society, your environment, your community supports you? This is a very important part of your happy index, okay? So if you don't feel it's fair, it's not good. So of course, the simple aspect is very important, but the question is, in order for the system to be supportive to you, you need to have people that are not abusing the power, right? Being a judge or being a policeman, that gives you a lot of power. It's very hard to have judges and policemen that do not abuse their power, right? Because you give people power, they'll abuse it. This is the rule, right? Even the most righteous people, give them a lot of power, power corrupts, correct? So the question is this enough just to having a legal system and just to have a police system? Because sooner or later that starts to get corrupted. Why? As we said many times, it is a mitzvah. It is a mitzvah, a spiritual precept to be a judge or a policeman. Why? If somebody remembers, a few decades ago in America, there was this Hebrew national campaign, we answer to a higher authority. If you don't think you answer to a higher authority, it's a problem. If you think you just, whatever you're doing is part of just, you know, you should do what's the right thing. We already realize everywhere in the world today, people, they just have their own interpretation for the law according to their own agenda. So if the person does not answer to a higher authority, which is if you do not think as a judge or a policeman, if you don't have values and you don't think that you're not doing just that for the purpose of serving people, says Rabbi Ashlag, you're doing it in order to connect to the light of God. If that part is missing, you just do it because logically, philosophically, society needs to have a legal system that is just. Dangerous. societies like this, organizations like this, have a very strong tendency to get corrupted. Why? Because people have different ideas about what is right and different agendas, and then the whole issue, you need to have a connection to something that is not changeable, something that is fixed, something that is a constant. Only the light of God, which is endless, is a constant. As long as this is not your reference point, you can go in places, and you know, from my experience dealing with people in different countries around the world, countries who are being called enlightened and democratic, very rarely you can find people that do think. I'm talking about from the US to Switzerland, France and Germany, England, whatever, people do not really trust not the legal system and not the police system. I'm not talking about the political system. I'm talking about the legal and the police system. People are simply afraid of these systems. Why? The moment it's not based, and that's what it says in Genesis, the 7 Noahide laws, these are laws that are universal to every human society. If you don't answer to a higher authority, we have a problem. You start, it's like a big kite with no string attached. There's no place of reference. You start flying, you start to reinterpret the laws in ways that you look at it and say, like, this is not common sense. And it's not. People have, you know, very good idea to reinvent their own interpretation to anything. To anything. So if you don't have a constant reference, which is the endless light of God, and if you don't have that, you cannot trust yourself. And that is a continuation of last week's parasha, which is Re'eh. And we said there, what does it mean, see? And the answer is, there are many answers, okay? But of course, one of them is that being able to see that you don't see is a blessing. Not being able to see that you don't see, that's a curse. If you don't see the rules, you don't understand them, and you don't think you don't see them, you're inclined to disastrous decisions in your life. So since every human being has a blind spot, you know what? We have maybe a light spot and the rest is blind. And sometimes if a person is really making a real spiritual work, to quiet down the noise. What's the noise? The noise comes from fear, pain, right? Why do we experience fear? Why do we experience pain? Because of making mistakes. You know, when you put your finger in the socket, right? You get into a trauma. Now, you know, you are traumatized. When you traumatize, you are, you know, people, you can see people are traumatized. They're not trusting. They're not trusting. Why do we get traumatized? Because of not going by the rules. What does it mean? Do we all know the rules? Of course we don't know the rules. Most of the rules we don't know. We can be told about the rules, but we don't take them seriously. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You see some people that are very, very strict about certain rules of behavior, like ethics and whatever, and some others, they are totally blind about it. Like, yeah, this is not important. Why? This is a part in their tikkun they did not acquire yet. So that's their blind spot in which they don't realize, they make mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we are traumatized. When we are traumatized, we're fearful, we're anxious, and we can't see. We're simply having too much noise, we can't see. And what happens when we can't see? We fail even more. We get even more traumatized. It's like, it's a prophecy that fulfills itself. You're very much afraid that you're going to fall, and because you're so much of a fear that you're obsessed with the fear, you fall. Did I say anything weird or really wise? No, this is simple. Very simple. How do we get out of this vicious cycle? How do we get to the bliss of going through pain and saying, you know, that was my choice. I missed some of the rules. Now I got some pain. It's nobody's fault but my own responsibility. I'm not going to go around with guilt about it. I'm just going to learn how to do it right, because I'm learning. And I'm trusting that the light is constant. The light, love to us, is not under any scrutiny ever, because the light is endless. The light can never change his decisions. He created us to fill us up, to make us happy. He did it. We were happy. We asked for like a timeout. Can we just be miserable for 7,000 years so we can learn how to be happy by ourselves? Okay, we got a timeout because there's no coercion in spirituality. So you can't force somebody to be happy, but on a limited time, as we know from Kabbalah. And the result is that we are just learning to choose the light over the pain. Okay? And it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. Okay? So when you trust that, you learn little by little to see. When is that you see? When you stop letting the traumas take over. When you stop letting the fear to run your life. Okay? Then, when you have the trust, we spoke about it last week, then you are able to see and to listen. And you never see the whole picture at once, and never hear the whole truth at once, because you're not capable. You know, you have to grow little by little, and as you grow, you expand your ability to perceive and to understand. So how's Parashat Shoftim in a spiritual context applies over here? Because we have few layers. One layer is, this is the month of Elul. And the month of Elul says Bnei Yisachar. Bnei Yisachar was a nephew of Rabbi Elimelech of Vilizhansk, and his name was Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech, after his uncle, and of Dinov, and he wrote a book, an amazing book, Bnei Yisachar. He took whatever he could find about in all the places about astrology and put them together. And he said something very important about, you know, from all the stuff we know about Elul. The month of Elul, we can say about it, it's from the book of Proverbs, Matzah Isha Matzah Tov. So, first of all, he says, you know, there's a simplistic explanation. If you found a good wife, you find good in your life. Okay? That's the most common interpretation. But there were 600,000 people on Mount Sinai. Each one of them heard something else. Everybody's right. Correct? So every verse has at least 600,000 commentaries that are right. Okay? So there's another commentary says, Matzah Isha Matzah Tov. Well, let's understand it. After the sin of Adam, says the Bnei Yisachar, we got a companion. Right? This companion is called the evil inclination. Okay, so now we have the good inclination and the evil inclination. And who do we listen to mostly? Huh? The evil inclination. Why? We know, like, what kind of media is the most popular? Positive or negative? Negative. People have this inclination. So you know that most of the time, and that is connected to what we just said before, most of the time, we are totally sure that the fake personality we carry with us, which is called the evil inclination, we are totally sure that this is a good one. How do we know? We make decisions. And very, very few people make a decision knowing it's evil. Right? They tell, you know, it's evil. Most of the decisions we make are evil. However, we tell ourselves this is for the good. Right? Do you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. But...
So we are so convinced at that moment this is the best thing to do, this is the best thing to say. Nobody says something or make a decision or behaves and saying, this is evil, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right? Everybody has justifications why it is good. So, the fake aspect of our personality, the evil, is a blind spot, right? Because that's what makes us blind. And following that voice in our head, heart, or whatever you call it, you know, some people go with the head, some people go with the heart, some people go with the belly, right? The belly feeling. He's there in all locations. In all of those locations. He's there and he has his own voice. Now, what's the problem with that? Because he's the best getting us into trouble. Not friends, not family, not, you know. Because in order to get into trouble, even if somebody comes and tries you to get into trouble, the problem is not with that somebody. The problem is that collaborator within you. Because if you are really, 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 really centered into what is good and what is right and what is enlightened and what is positive, and to love others as you love yourself, because that's your own message to connect to the light of the Creator. And somebody comes to you with a terrible idea and a vicious idea, you listen to it and you have a blessing. You listen to it, you know, this is terrible. So you listen, you realize exactly that you see here a disease, you try to help him out if he's not listening, because usually people don't listen, right? At least you don't follow. You feel sorry for them, but you don't follow. The fact that somebody comes with a bad idea and you immediately get like, wow, let's do it together. Thanks to whom? Your own little tiny, big, dark voice, right? Which is faking, that's me. That's me. And as we said many times, no, people say, no, this is not fake, this is really me. Yeah? How many people wake up in the morning with a vicious idea to hurt other people? Most people don't. Most people wake up in the morning, they want to feel good, right? Something happens during the day, right? Something during, even if you wake up in the morning and you do some meditations and contemplations, and you listen to the birds, and let's say if you're living in Manhattan and there are no birds, they died a long time ago, so you put the tape of birds, right? A tape, you know, YouTube. And then you relax and you think, today I wish, I pray I will have a positive day of serenity, whatever. How long would that last? Till we start following all kinds of bad voices from within. That's life. That's normal, right? If the whole day pass along, and everything is normal, and everything is balanced, and everything is positive, and everybody, you start feeling that something must be wrong, right? Where is today's work? Today's work is what? Overcoming our negative, faking friend, right? Partner, whatever you call him, which is the other me. That's what it is. And that's how we acquire serenity, real one, happiness, real one, good life, real one, by making those acquisitions, by overcoming negativity. And that's the only real acquisition that we get. That stays forever, right? Now, in order to do that, you need first to have judges and policemen on your gates. Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, right? Not everything can come in, not everything can get out. If you don't have, says Rabbi Chai Vital, those system of monitoring on your gates, oh, you're going to get into trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And we do. So, says Rabbi Ezekluya, today we call it garbage in, garbage out. So he said 500 years ago, don't bring in garbage. And today, you can get on your cell phone so much garbage coming in just by looking and listening. Don't bring it in. Don't bring it in, because if garbage in, what comes out? Garbage out. You need policemen and judges. You need to have a system of, and sometimes they just pop. So it doesn't matter if you have children in the house or not. You need to have a system on your cell phone that kind of doesn't let it in. It doesn't pop into your eyes, because what happens today, nowadays and age, we are so desensitized with all of that stuff. Pictures of violence and all kinds of stuff is very, very hurting to our souls, says Rabbi Youdkevitch. It's like, and if you just, it pops up, and especially if you're a kid, or your kid takes your phone, or for yourself, just for yourself. In old, 16th century, Rabbi Youdkevitch, and many, many years before and after, people, for fun, went for public executions. Today, there are no public executions to walk. Why? You have it in your phone. You can watch. How many people could you see in 1 hour being executed, killed, tortured, whatever, just watching news or just watching any kind of little trailers and stuff like this? It's so flooded with violence that we're getting desensitized. And Rabbi Youdkevitch says, you have no idea how much damage it brings to your soul. Most people that I know, 35 years I'm teaching Kabbalah, when you really go into it and you're really focusing on Ana Bekoach, prayers, meditation, reading the Zohar, scanning the Zohar, your soul is starting to transform, and suddenly one of the first results is you can't watch those movies anymore. What's the problem? There are pop-ups. News and stuff like this, it's like it trickles in. People, and it's a brainwashing. We are brainwashed to be violent and negative. Why? We consume more when we are not calm. When we don't, people with serenity, they don't shop so much. They don't need so many medications. They're more relaxed. They are not vulnerable to the society influence. This is not good. But there are some movies who are really good. No, it's not good. To see violence is not good. Not good for you. And a lot of other stuff that are not good for you. Okay? And that's enough for today. Now, what about another layer of perception? Studying Kabbalah, it's layers after layers and after layers. And there's a deeper layer. And that takes us into the Zohar. It says judgment. First of all, we go and we say what the Zohar says. And the Zohar says, explains to us, what is a judge? Oops. The word does not exist in the word that the Torah is using does not exist in English, because the word judge is dayan. Mm-hmm. But what's the word for shofet? What's the word for shofet? The two words in Hebrew for somebody who sits at the head of court, right? Dayan and shofet. It's not synonyms. Not what according to the Zohar. What the Zohar is saying, shofet. What's the purpose of a shofet? Okay? In modern day society, somebody committed a felony, right? You bring him to court, and court has to take measures. Mm-hmm. Usually, it's like society has to take a revenge, right? Mm-hmm. But you know what happens? It's called, when you add insult to injury, what do you get? More pain. In America, there are around 2 million people, and they are inmates in what is called correctional facilities. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't call it jail anymore. Right. Correctional facility. Okay? When a person gets out of the correctional facility, they say he paid his dues to society. Yeah? No. The taxpayer paid average something around $100,000 a year to feed him, to guard him, to warm him in the winter. Did he pay that back to the taxpayer? so he didn't pay his dues to society, right? Sometimes, if you're an inmate and you committed murder, you have better conditions than somebody who's a veteran, fought for the country, and now he's living alone in a room, a rented room. He has no heat in the winter. He has no money for that. He has no air conditioning in the summer. He has no money to pay for medications. But the murderer, the taxpayer, pays for his medications. For all, free treatment for his teeth, everything. Good food, nutritious food, everything. Exercise at a gym, whatever. And you want to say he paid his dues to society? That's not a correctional facility. And, and because 2 million people sitting in jail, there's no crime anymore in the US, correct? Because all the bad guys are sitting in jail, right? Can't find bad guys in America. Everybody's in jail. All the bad ones, correct? Not correct. What's wrong with the system? Too many people are making money out of it. Too many people are making money out of it. Like Rabbi Ashlag is saying, you think, when will peace come? And says Rabbi Ashlag, as long as people making too much money out of wars, do you think the people really in power have the interest to have peace? They're making too much money out of war. It's like, there's no logic. You have to be practical, not live in illusions. Being practical is kind of, very rare today. So the purpose, but we're going to the biblical law. In the biblical law, there was no solution to somebody's problem by putting him into jail. Why? He's not paying his dues to society in jail. He's costing even more to society. And you know what? When he gets out, he has to come back to be part of society. And what did we do? We just spend money on him. So did we solve anything? And the answer is no, we did not. So let's go back to our issue. So what the Zohar says, the word shofet, we find, what's a symbol of court? It's a biblical symbol. The scales, right? By the way, next month, Tishrei was a symbol, Libra is the scales. Okay? It's called in Hebrew Moznei Mishpat, the scales of Mishpat. What is Mishpat? A shofet is a healer. The person who sits in court according to the Torah, his attitude is supposed to be, I'm sitting here in order to heal whoever comes to court. Why do they come to court? They're off balance, right? So I'm here in order to balance them. The word mishpat or shofet comes from the shoresh shin pei tet, which means to balance. So, why there's no, so again, if somebody stole, well, two people are hurt, two souls were hurt. The victim, right? And the criminal. Both are hurt. The shofet is someone who can look at the hurt. The universe right now has a spot, two spots of hurt. And we need to rebalance that hurt, because if that hurt is not going to be taken care of, that hurt starts to... If the victim, because he was hurt too much, he can go bankrupt, let's say, then the whole circle of his family, suppliers, customers, family, landlord, everybody's it's going by, in circles of that hurt. If you don't stop that hurt right now, that can spread to a lot of people. You have to stop it right now. And the same thing, because there's a law of cause and effect, the criminal, the hurt that you create comes back to your soul. Now his soul is hurt because all of that hurt that was generated by his action. His soul is hurting. If you're not going to stop that, that hurt will continue spreading, because he's right now like live wires, hanging out, going around, And because he's like a free radical, he just bites on anyone who's around him. Because he's hurt. When he's hurt? He hurt other people, yeah, but the hurt comes back. Why is he a criminal? Why is he off course? Because he's hurt. Because he's right now, he's a big mess, chaotic energy of pain and mess. All of this pain is vibrating. And if you put all of these people, a lot of people like this in the same jail, there's a lot of hurt in the same place. You don't come out of that healed. You come out of a place like this even more hurt. And now you're live wires but high voltage. You're dangerous. The purpose of the shofet, wrongly translated into a judge, is not to judge the person. It's to heal the person. Which means what the Jewish law says, if you don't, as a judge, you don't look at a criminal with love. What do you mean with love? Hello? He has a soul. If you don't look at him with love, you won't find the ability to heal him. You have to make him pay back. You have to get him into balance. Sending him to jail doesn't do it. How do we know? Statistics. We know. We know. Every country in the world that is using heavily a jail system, it doesn't work. Listen, speak with the social workers, speak with the lawyers. I spoke with a lot of them. It doesn't work. It's known. Everybody knows. However, too many people live off that. Too many people have too much interest that the system will continue being like this. Okay? So when it's for me, if I'm not a social worker, if I'm not a judge in court, if I'm not a policeman, if I'm not making money out of it, so maybe I should. It's a big, you can make a lot of money out of it. No, that's not what I mean. So again, what is my job into it? Because I have a lot of crimes myself, right? Raising my voice at people that I was not supposed to because they didn't get anything right. There's like a lot of stuff that we all do out of our evil inclination. Okay? How do I fix it? I have to be a shofet. I have to balance it. Because why did I do what I do? Why did I do it? Because I went off balance. How do you fix it? Going around with guilt? Guilt is totally illegal cosmically because guilt makes people even more weak, and that means healing is not part of guilty people. They don't have the energy to heal. They're too busy feeling guilty, right? And that's like draining their energy. If you really want to fix it, feeling guilty is not going to help you. And by the way, if you think that the more guilty you feel, the more mercy God is going to have for you, big mistake. Big mistake. Why? Because when you're guilty, are you getting closer to God or getting farther away from Him? What?
Farther away.
Farther away. He can't help you. He can't help you. What can we do? Because when you're guilty, you're not aligned with the holy network of God. And you're not plugged in. You're plugged out. Guilty people, when they're people in the very strong guilt, what happens to their IQ? Poof. What happens to their the ability to live and to deal with challenges? Poof. What happens with their ability to pay back? You hurt someone. Do something good for him, but you're full of guilt. You can't help anyone because you're good for nothing. So, guilty is not a solution to anything. Guilty is just making the problem even worse. Since I was a kid, this religious thing, you come to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the more guilty you feel, maybe God will have mercy on you. You know what? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Thousands of years people tried it. It's getting even worse. Getting even worse. Why? Because when God is giving us all the energy of life on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when you're guilty, you're offline. Simply offline. You come out emptier than you have been. terrible. Okay? So, fixing is about, or correcting is about rebalancing. How do you rebalance? You have to rebalance, and that's the scales between the desire to receive and the desire to share. Usually when we mess up is because what? We took so much. We took too much. Some people, they take even when they give, right? Because they force themselves upon you. You don't want what they give you. They want to give you advices, you don't need advices. They want to give you food, you don't want the food. They want to give you warmth, you don't need their warmth, because it's more like
Cold.
so. And you try to coerce stuff on other people. That's not giving. You think you're giving, but that's your dark side convincing you're doing the right thing. How do you know you're doing the wrong thing? Says Rabbi Ashlag, look at the person you're trying to give to. If you really look at his face and his behavior, you will realize he's uncomfortable. And why is he uncomfortable? I'm giving him so much. I'm giving him so much chocolate. Maybe he hates chocolate. Maybe he loves, cheese, not chocolate. There are types. The people can't stand sweet. They love it, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? That thing is, again, our blind spot. You have to balance. You have to give when it's called giving. You have to take when it's called taking, when it's reciprocating. The whole thing is looking at our lives and to see where did we get off balance. Suddenly we give so much and we expect too much in return. Okay? The whole thing about this month, as we said, it's not just that Virgos have this, like they're born with a certificate of a God's accountant. Rosh Hodesh, Elul, this month, we all becoming a little bit Virgos. And that means we become very sensitive to imperfections. Now, if you're blessed, like the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, he was born in Virgo. He's a Virgo. So, as the sages were saying, Rabbi Bannon was saying, now those Virgos were very critical about themselves, but they're very caring of others. And there are those Virgos who are very critical of others, and they're very much caring about themselves. Now, because this is a month of Elul, we all have that choice. If you're critical of others, that's hell. Why? Everybody annoys you. Why? Hey, nobody's perfect, correct? Okay? We are not here to be perfect, remember that? And you are being annoyed, and why you're annoyed? Because there's something imbalanced with you. So what do you want from them? You have to ask yourself, what is imbalance in me? This is a time to regain a balance. Okay. So says the Bnei Issachar, he says also, when you write in Hebrew, Mazal Betula Elul, the month, the sign of Virgo, the zodiac sign of Virgo, and the name of the month is Elul, Gematria, there's a verse from Psalms, I think 119, Em Habanim Smecha Hallelujah. The mother of the sons is happy, hallelujah. And he says, if you know a little bit Zohar and Kabbalah, you know that the whole time of the next 2 months is about Teshuvah. What is Teshuvah? Teshuvah, wrongly translated into English as repentance, but the real meaning of the word Tshuva means Tashuv Hey, return the Hey, which means what is the Hey? Our reality. Me, myself, my body, my needs, my business, whatever is my sphere of reality, sense of reality, that's the Hey, symbolized by the letter Hey. Okay? The letter Hey is the last letter of the Tetragrammaton, right? Which symbolize the tree of life and the flow of life in the universe. Okay? The teachings of Rabbi Zakloria include something very important, which is the law, or let's say the theory of exile, galut. In Hebrew, the word galut means to remove, liglot, to remove. Okay? What does it mean? When we are vibrating according to our, negative friend, the dark side, the other side, you can call him Steve if you want, doesn't matter. But because of that, the moment we vibrate in the dark side, we get unplugged from the light side. And what does that mean? That the hay, which is us, is being unplugged from the other parts of the tree, which are the Yud, the Hay, and the Vav. So when you unplugged, no energy, no wisdom, no messages. You're simply feeling lost, unplugged. You have no Wi-Fi, you have no electricity, you have no... think about it, that all those needs in the physical world, they exist also in the spiritual world in different ways. It's only whatever you experience in this physical world is an imitation of the upper world. As above, so below. So when you feel spiritually unplugged, your health will be suffering, your mentality will be suffering, your relationship will be suffering, your business will be suffering. And if it's not suffering, it's on the way. It looks a bit, sometimes when you plug something out, there's some kind of a, some systems, when you plug them out, they continue somehow. Like the chicken that lost its head and is still jumping around. Correct? That could happen, still be in motion. So, what do we do with that? Teshuvah means return the hay, which basically means re-plug yourself. That's Teshuvah. Re-plug yourself back to the network. So simple. Re-plug. Teshuvah, return the hay. Re-plug. How do you re-plug? You have to rebalance yourself. How do you do that? You have to become your own shofet. You have to, right now, that's what we have to balance our energies, balance all those voices, all those emotions, like the judge sitting in court. And everybody's emotional, and everybody's upset, and everybody has to voice their pain and sorrow and stuff, and you have to calm everybody down and to bring everybody into a healing, so everybody leaves the meeting happy and replugged, which means life can go on. Nobody's hurting, nobody's upset, nobody's into revenge. That's the job of the shofet. He's a messenger of God. He's the messenger to bring everyone to a place in which they're reconnected. Now, same thing we have in ourselves. During this month and the month after, we have to rebalance ourselves. Those places that are most hurting, they're hurting not because of other people. It says, the Zohar says something very important. Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha bechol sharecha, it's all of this, and about the whole thing about the court, it should be, no bribery. Bribery will make wise people blind, right? And there are all kinds of ways of bribery, right? We spoke about it. But in verse 20, chapter 16, it says, that's the third verse from the beginning. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. It says you should pursue justice, but the word justice appears twice. And the Zohar says, why twice? In both realms. You cannot do justice in the physical realm when it's no justice in the spiritual realm, and vice versa. You have to understand that you cannot make justice on the physical realm between people when you did not do justice with their souls. So you have to treat both levels at the same time. You can't just treat one level only. You cannot treat the spiritual level and leave the physical level untreated. You cannot do the physical level and the physical. You understand what I'm saying? You have to heal on both levels, which means a judge must have the both abilities. And when we're talking about our job during the coming 2 months, we have to go to all of those places of hurt. And instead of blaming other people or being in guilt, how do I heal that? How do I bring that into a healing moment? Okay? Sometimes you have to ask other people for forgiveness with all your heart. Sometimes you just have forgiveness is not enough. You have to pay them. You've stole from someone, just saying, I'm really sorry, I apologize, whatever. That's not enough. You have to give them some money because, you have to correct the hurt. There's so many other things we can do, but that's our job. How to make amends. Now, it then comes in the Zohar something that follows what it says over here. There was, okay, we are going now to chapter 17, verse 2. כי ימצא בקרבך באחד שעריך, אשר השם אלוקיך נותן לך, איש או אישה שיעשה את הרע בעיני השם אלוקיך. Let's say somebody is being brought to the gate where court was sitting, somebody who did the evil. Okay? And court found out that that person is death sentenced. Okay? First of all, by the biblical law, there's no circumstantial evidences. Never. You need at least 2, if not 3 kosher witnesses. And the rules for kosher witnesses that saw it in a kosher way are so strict. It's almost impossible. The court in Jerusalem was very rarely in a place of sentencing somebody to death, and after sentencing somebody to death, the court had to resign. Why? We are the teachers of the generation, and if it happened in our time, we have to take responsibility. How come, as when we are the teachers and the role models of the generation, somebody was found guilty and he has to be executed? So it says, like, once in a 70 years would that happen, maybe. Okay? Of course, when a judge knows that if he sentences somebody to death, he can do it, it's like a bee. You can sting only once. You have one sting. That's it. After that, disqualified. You can't be a judge anymore. Why? You were a conduit for death. Yeah, but the guy is guilty. Yeah, but why were you there to judge him to death? It shows also about you. So you think they will think 10,000 times before sentencing somebody to death. And the witnesses. But what if, there are circumstantial evidences? How many times do you hear that somebody in the most democratic societies sentenced to death or to life sentence because circumstantial evidences about murder, and 20, 30 years later they found out he was not guilty? Does that happen? Mm-hmm. Too many times. Who's going to pay for that? The judges. Who knows how many lifetimes? But if the judge does not have the sense of answering to a higher authority, it's very easy. You feel. I read this something a judge wrote anonymously. It says, you have no idea the sense of power that you feel as a judge. You can, like Mengele, God forbid, but some people, you can, to death and to life. Wow, and that judge said, this power is so strong, it takes over you, it runs your life. You can't fight it. So you understand, if you don't have a person with real deep values of faith in God, and he's sitting on the throne of a judge. Wow. He's drunk with power. How long would it take till he falls into the hubris? We're all humans. We're all humans. It's so dangerous. And he says it's like this is it's like an addiction. You start with it will never happen to me, he says. I'll always be like so kind, and it gets into you in no time, and you can't overpower that force. Wow, so much power. So much power. And now that, legal system around the world, sometimes they are like overpowering a government. No, we are ruling the president or the government. This is wrong. Who says? We did. The judges. Wow. So who is in control of the country? Judges. Is that easy to overcome? So, let's go back to our story. As parents, we can have the same hubris. As a boss, we can always find ourselves, and we have to be so much afraid of that. A good fear, cautious fear, that we can make a big mistake. Just because we have the power doesn't mean we should use it. Okay? So how do you do that? And the Zohar explains, you have to always look inside. Where's the right column? Where's the left column? Are you giving too much? Are you taking too much? Are you having too much judgment? Left column. Or are you having too much chesed? Right column. Where is that most people fall? Judgment. We're trying to take so much. Every time we get hurt, we're afraid, we get frightened, we immediately hold on and we take, right? And then if you take without enough chesed, without enough right column, whoops, we go off balance. Correct? So how do we balance that stuff? So it speaks about the execution. So the Zohar says execution. How is that? What has that to do with this? Yes, the Zohar says you have to execute your dark side every day, again and again and again. You can't execute the whole thing. No. It's not that easy. Little bits and pieces, here and there. How do you do that? Oh, there are 4 ways of execution, says the Zohar. I'm reading the Zohar, verse 2 in the Sulam. המצווה שלאחר זו היא לדון בחרב, to judge somebody to death by sword, בחנק, by suffocation, בדין סקילה, by stoning, and בדין שריפה, by burning. So how do you do that? Okay, how do you do that? And the answer is like this. The first is, the sword of the Creator is Youdkevitch. How? So if you have a good imagination, the Yud is the handle, the Vav is the body of the sword, right? That's how they look like, right? If you put the Yud and the Vav together, it looks like, good imagination, you can, if you paint there is very good, you can paint the Yud as the handle, and the sword is the Vav. And the 2 Hays are the 2 edges of the sword. It's a double-edged sword. Why? Because when we are, says the Zohar, when we are full with negativity, how we have to kill the dark side by sword. How? When we are connecting to the light of the Creator, as we said, teshuvah means replug. So when we replug, so then we have now the whole sword is at our service. And how do you use the sword? Because there are 2 Hays. The lower hay is our reality, our identity. Who am I? The upper hay, em abanim smecha. Who is the mother of the children? Sfirat Bina. What is Sfirat Bina? You know, the upper two letters is Yud and Hey. The Yud is Abba, Daddy, and the Hey is Ima, Mommy. Who feeds you? Mommy. So, when is that we get fed for the whole year? Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah. That's where we get fed for the whole year. Who feeds us? Abba or Ima? Ima, Mommy. So, come back to Mommy. Which means, oh, is God feminine or masculine?
Gum and gum.
Both. On one hand is Avinu Malkeinu, our father, our king. On the other hand, this is our mommy, because who is feeding you? Em abanim smecha. So when you connect to that place of unconditional love, because God's love to us is like a mother that is unconditionally loving. So that energy is the energy of Bina. This is ready. Come to mommy. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, you'll be happy to come to, because there's so much bliss. Mommy is making a big Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur party. There's going to be so much over there. But remember, if you don't bring your hey, who you are, into that place, you know how many people still, as we said last week, still upset about God. God, it's not fair. God, why did you do this to me? And God is like, I didn't do it to you. Didn't I tell you do not kill? Didn't I tell you not to steal? Didn't I tell you, like, you know, what did you get from do not steal? What do you get? You know, it's very simple. What about honoring your father and your mother? What about, there's so many rules. Everything is written down. I didn't have time to study all of them. When you want to get a license, driving license, you have to study the whole, all the rules, right? You know, living, you know, unfortunately, people don't get a license. You need to get a license because you're dangerous. If you're going around without knowing the rules, you're dangerous. But that's studying the Torah, but studying not from the place, oh, so many rules, this is annoying, I don't want to read the book. No, those rules are meant for one thing. How to plug yourself into the network, and what shouldn't you do in order not to get unplugged. It's all at your fingertips. It's only you. God never unplugs someone. Why? He's endless. He's endless. He has this function of unplug does not exist in God's system. It exists only in our system. So when you feel unplugged, it's only because you touched the wrong button. Remember that. To get that settled, you have first to kill the doubt, the upset, the feeling of betrayal. It's like, well, God, how did you do this to me? And God, I didn't do this to you. You did it to yourself. You simply don't know the rules. If you don't know the rules, you know, what can I do? What can I do? It's like part of the rule is that you have to learn the rules by yourself. You know, if you're a bear or a salmon fish, you come in with a chip with all the rules on it. You know, a bear also, your mother will educate you. Okay, you need some, but usually bears, salmons, they don't know how to mess the planet. They don't know, don't have that option. Humans, oh, we're very good at it. Just give us the time and we'll do it, right? So, why? Because we have a very wide chip, but we have to program it ourselves. That's the deal. That's why you need a book. And if you don't do the job, you'll get unplugged. So we have a whole month of balancing. A whole month. And then there's one thing that is so much important, because there's so much, because there's killing him by sword, as we said, using the Youdkevitch, because the moment you reconnect to the light, Youdkevitch, and you meditate on it, and you connect to the warmth and the love, and you really arouse inside yourself that there's so much love towards you every moment. That's like killing your enemy with a sword, your dark side. Okay? Now, also he says, you know, a sword has a sheath, right? The sheath of the sword is the Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, whoever knows. When you put both of them together, wow, you can win in any war, because when you just concentrate on uniting the upper world and the lower world, the light and the vessel, the creator and the creation, that's called the Yichud. If you're busy with that, especially during this month, these 2 months, so much light comes in that kills your dark side. Okay, that's one way to kill it. Bechenek. Bechenek is, if you just want, we don't have so much time, but it's like, you know, you can use the, Bechenek is, how do you strangle somebody? That's strangling. 2 hands, hey and hey, right? 5 and 5, 5 fingers is hey. You know, the Hebrew letters are also numbers. Okay, when you say give me 5, it's give me a hey. So that's the wrong thing. The Chamsa comes from the hay. The hay is the protection, not the 5 fingers. Okay, that's the hay, and there's the whole thing. But the moment you're really connecting to the light, how? Prayer, meditation, scanning the Zohar, doing good things, and focusing only on the light, no matter what. What happened to your dark side? He's strangled. You don't know how much oxygen he has, but he's strangled. It's going to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When he loses his grip, how do you know? You become so happy suddenly, and like you don't need a reason to be happy. Why? You strangled him. He fainted. And what happens when he faints? All the noise disappears. You see reality. Just try being happy unconditionally. Dancing, singing, doing Hana Bekor, just like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, more, 15 minutes, an hour, doing it with others. After a while, suddenly it becomes like, wow. You start seeing stuff you didn't see before because you strangled him. And if you're going on doing it the whole day long, wow, till he wakes up, it's like, what have you done to me? Okay, so that's strangling. What about stoning? Oh, you see the dark side, you see the negativity, you see the hatred or the guilt or lust or whatever stuff, throw your mind just up to the thought of the Creator. Why do you have to study Kabbalah again and again? Because the more you study, you can throw your thought to a higher place. What are you doing for him? It's stoning, because then your thought is the Yud. It's a stone. Your hand is 5. Your arm is the Vav, and the shoulder is the other 5, the other Hey. So when you throw the stone up and above, when you use the Youdkevitch to throw your mind, it's like you're just being pulled down to physicality and just all of this like mess. Said, no, I know everything is for the good. I know that the Creator, and I want to connect to the intention. What's the original intention behind whatever is happening right now? Good?
Yeah.
So I want to feel that intention. Do you know that's stoning your dark side? Because he gets stoned because of that. It's like, wow, what have you done to me? You don't believe in him anymore. Okay? And the last one is killing by fire. Verse 8. Ladun besrefa. Al yedei etzim ladlik bahem esh. How do you burn him? With wood. Ashrei haguf shu ha'etz. Happy is the body that becomes wood. Va'avarim shelo etzim, that his limbs are wood. Shisof bahem esh. When the person turns himself into a bonfire, which is ner mitzvah, that the person is like a bonfire because everything he does is with so much fire of excitement for doing a mitzvah for connecting to the light of God. Every action. When you're doing that, you burn your dark side. He can't stand that excitement. It's painful for him. Lisof et hasamich mem, to burn the dark side. Al yedei hashchina aliyot, because when you do that, it's like you become like an offering on the altar, going on fire. And then the Shekhinah, the Holy Presence, dwells on you. And that burns the dark side. Execution on the altar. But that needs a lot of excitement. And then what does it say about V'azar hakarev yumat? And the foreigner will try to come close, will be killed. He can't approach you when you are like an offering on the altar, and every part of you is going on fire with excitement. We know there are many, many descriptions of people that became healthy from all kinds of terrible diseases. One of the biggest healing is simply living with enormous excitement, like Zohar is explaining right now. When you do that, that can burn the worst diseases, because where are the diseases coming from? When you're plugged out. There's no vacuum left. Darkness starts to sift in. So, we'll finish with one of the last paragraphs of this parasha, is Ki tetzeh lemilchama al oivecha. When you wage war on your enemy, who's your enemy? There's only one enemy. The dark side. Ve'raita sus, and you'll see a horse, ve'rechev, and a chariot. Okay? Am ravimeka, a whole nation bigger than you are. If it's a whole nation, it should be horses and chariots. It says no. When you wage war on your enemy and you say like, he's big as a horse. I'm so small. My evil inclination is big as a horse. Varechev, and he is, rechev means also a rider. He's also riding over my body. Right? Mm-hmm. My physical needs and desires. There's a whole nation. Mimeka could be bigger than you, but Rav Mimeka could be a lot of people coming from you. The amount of dark forces that each one of us create, it's a whole nation. Mimcha from you. He has a whole army. Who created this army? The dark side. The dark side has no power without you. It doesn't have any power on itself. And look over that and you say like, whoa, how would I even start? So the Torah says, don't worry. Because ki Hashem al tira mem ki Hashem elokecha imcha malcha meret Mitzrayim. God was with you getting out of Egypt. Yes? You got out of Egypt. If you always, as we said, Youdkevitch, always go to the war with him, with daddy and mommy, you're always much stronger. Thank you so much and have a great month.